So.
And we're live. There we go. Welcome to The Good Lie and the Greater Good. This is June 9th. And Juan Swanson here, as always, with my buddy Walter. Say hello.
So to be clear, this is The Good Lie and the Greater Good number 9.5, because number 9 is unlisted because I turned the audio off when we did it on Sunday, and it was a pretty good banger, except there's no audio of it. So like we're probably gonna do it again on this Sunday.
Yeah, we do it on Sunday.
So we don't really remember exactly. I think we were talking about like Trudeau and his some of his or excuse me, not Trudeau, Castro's son. Some of the stuff that was going on in Canada. That was what we were talking about on Sunday, and that kind of devolved into certain other stuff. But
yeah,
so that. Just to be clear, there's a reason why there's a 9.5 as we get better with what we're doing and we move towards like our end state of what we're doing. But yeah, that's
refining things. Yeah. Hey, that's better than normal. It's normally a gruff what. Yes. Anyways, well, welcome. We will rehash some of that as the gun grabbing and the bowing to the Blackrocks and the vanguards of by political leaders. Goes on, and another month of treating people differently who also want to be treated the same. I'm very confused about all these things while we're doing it, but happy Pride Month to you and to anybody else that wants to be treated differently but also the same. And we will let's take it away. Let's talk about this. Jacinda Ardern, Prime Minister of New Zealand, leaves the hallowed grounds of Blackrock, the world's largest financial institution investing company, in broad daylight. And like you said, it looks weird. It looks bad, sus, as you like to say. Yeah,
government is sus.
And
this is a cover from when she was on Time magazine where she says like, I deleted the bottom part. What was she talking about? Do you remember what she was talking about?
This is the Christchurch. So this is their homage to her for her response during the 2019 Islamic shootings in Christchurch by that guy.
Know us by our deeds. Yes. So I know you by the fact that you walked out of Blackrock, and there's like nothing in the mainstream media. Obviously no one gives a shit about this, like, and again it may mean very, very, very little. She's still technically a sovereign person that has the freedom to do whatever she wants. It's just like, or another thing was that Australia is now classifying adult, sudden adult death syndrome, right? And it's like, well, this may occur. This may have been a real thing. I mean, there is the infant version of that, but it's like when you have half the world, or I shouldn't say half the world, when you have a whole bunch of people running around saying like, there's something wrong with the jab, and then you're just like, well, we're just going to classify this strange phenomenon of people just dying in their sleep, and it's like all you're doing is giving fodder to people that like view the world that way, to go see you, and it's like, instead of being transparent with what you're doing, you're the opposite of transparent, and you're just like, I'm going to make it look like we're a cabal of people, like was mentioned in Anaheim, California, where there's literally they referred to themselves as a cabal trying to corruptly sell the baseball stadium in Anaheim. They called themselves a cabal, and then as world leaders you go out and you act like a cabal.
Yes.
So the optics of it do not matter to you, and that's a problem in and of itself, that the people that you are supposed to serve you view as vassals, and therefore you can operate however you want because
they don't matter. What is it? The no jab, no job thing in Australia. Same thing. I mean, it was even more harsh in New Zealand, and she's okay to go and do whatever. She is the leader of their country. I get that, but also the rest of the plebes have to stay and can't do it. And she's like, always, we're so welcoming. You just want everyone to have our values, but not anyone can emigrate to your country. Like, you need money, you need a job. It's not like people can just walk up and go, hey, I want to live here now. So again, super hypocritical across the board. Of course, nobody's going to talk about it because BlackRock and Vanguard, who own each other, own majority shares in all of the major news media. So it's funny looking the BlackRock thing up. Yeah, nothing on any actual what someone would consider.
There's a reason why I had to make the meme is because the best I could find was like grainy video on like not mainstream sites. And again, like I like to be able to go to the mainstream internet and use the mainstream links to talk about stories, not because there aren't news stories other places. It's because if I'm a normie and I want to go find out about something, I'm going to go to Google. I'm just going to Google it into Google. And if it doesn't pop up, then guess what? To me as a normie, it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
Right. So like if there's something like this that walks out, I should be able to at least Google it and then go, oh, here's the story. This is the transparent story. That's nothing.
Or here's the reviewed. Oh, this is false. Whatever their fact checkers are, at least acknowledging that it happened, but it happened for a different reason.
Yeah.
Even if there's not an article, it's like conspiracy theorists are wrong. She went there to check out her 401k or whatever, simple. Just don't make it look like how it looks.
Yes.
And that's all I ask for is at some point, it's either it's happening and this stuff, they just don't care, or they're too dumb to realize that this is what it looks like. Yeah. So it's just kind of funny that, yes, you will know us by our deeds, and they just continue.
Well, you like to say that too. Like if people say stuff and then they do stuff, then if it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Yeah.
And if you will know us by our deeds, well, you're going into something that looks like a Bond villain headquarters, and then you're walking out of a Bond villain headquarters. And they may not be Bond villain headquarters, but it sure does look operative of a Bond world headquarters, to at least to a certain portion of the population. And culturally, as politically divided as we are, and this is all over the world, doing things that optically look stupid do not help you to bring that division closer together. It just continues to give fodder to both sides, one to tribally defend you and the other side to tribally rail against you. It doesn't make any sense why you would operate this way, like you said, unless your deed is to continue to sow political division, in the Western hemisphere or the Western world. I shouldn't say the hemisphere.
It's everywhere. It's not even, they're everywhere. Like these people, these young World Economic Forum young leaders. Yes. And that's where it makes it look bad is she's not just a rando. She's with Trudeau and Pete Buttigieg and all these people who are part of the Young Leaders Initiative. And it looks bad when they do things that make them look, like you said, like they're participating in with Bond villain, with Bond villain, groups and corporations that are impacting, have control over the majority of money in the world.
Yeah,
that's when it looks weird to me, especially since I've been kind of off.
So did I tell you this? Like last football season, I was coaching at a high school, and one of the kids, he was a freshman kid in the program, and his mom came up to the head football coach and was asking him about the off-season football program, and wanted to know how much time the kid was going to have to sink into football, because she had other things scheduled for him, including a number of like leadership camps. And at the time, and this is like 6 months ago at this rate, at the time, 6 months, like 9 months ago, at the time, I'm like, why does this like 14, 15-year-old kid need to be going to leadership camps? Like, he's a teenager. He's not going to you can't force someone to be a leader. It's a learned trait. You have to experience it. You have to, there are certain things that you can talk about, but just because you talk about them does not mean that you're magically going to go out and apply them. I'm like, what the fuck is this leadership, these leadership camps? Well, what in reality these leadership camps is they're essentially like networking camps that like allow certain people to separate the wheat from the chaff when it comes to potentially having access
That's
down the line.
Sorry, that popped in my head. I was
Yes.
like, I know where you're going with this. Yes. No, exactly.
So the mom's not dumb.
No.
But again, at the end of the day, you're going to have to exhibit certain traits, and you're going to have to toe certain ideological lines.
I don't even think about the traits. I mean, look at some of the. I was looking through some of the people that have graduated, and I'm like, they have no leadership traits. They have an ideological bent.
That's what we talked about. They're not selecting for competence. They're selecting for other traits that does not have to do with necessarily charisma. Well, I guess sort of charisma. I mean, actors, they're in certain degree they are
politicians are actors. Yeah. You know, when you're on Jimmy Kimmel and you can't finish sentences, you lack charisma. You lack that ability to deliver any kind of message or any kind of enthusiasm that someone else would look at and go, yeah, that guy's not dumb, or I like his style, or insert anything into it. What's going on?
Oh, I'm just gonna check the audio real quick.
Okay, cool.
So
I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, well, I'm good. I can talk.
You can talk too. But yes, so again, yes, those young. It is good for kids to be exposed to all kinds of things. I don't think that that's a bad thing. I just think that it's kind of, you're right. It is a learned trait, and in the end, most of these things are access. Even like camps, even if you go to football camps.
Yes, to get scholarships.
It's an access thing, and that's what this what it does, and that's what this young leaders does. Whatever that kid went to, I don't know. I don't think they're recruiting high school kids for this. How's it sounding?
Well, it's coming through. It just didn't come through my mic like I was hoping.
Oh, okay. No, anyways, yeah. So some of the other fun people that are be interesting. A lot of the people that are part of these initiatives and the things they're doing and saying, it makes people like me go, huh? And so yes, people who don't know that this happened, it's just another log on the fire of, makes you go, what? Yes. Maybe, so.
Well, it's the difference between part of the difference between you and me is you think that there's more of a grand design behind things, and I see it more as like chaos, right? And the difference between the two of us is the more that they do stuff like this, is it takes that chaos and it makes it look like order. It makes it look like it is a grand design. And that's the problem with it's one thing to like the example I like to give a lot of times, and I brought this up to you before, like you wouldn't take a 5-year-old and teach them, like we can actually, I will transition this. You wouldn't take a 7-year-old and bring them to a strip club to allow trannies to strip in front of a 7-year-old. There's a reason why you don't do that. And it's a little bit more complex than initially just like, we don't want to spoil the innocence of children. It is the exact reason why you wouldn't do that. But the reason is children don't understand the basic rules for how things function in the world. And you're taking something that is rather complex that even potentially adults with experience wouldn't understand, and you're exposing it to a child, and then they're having to rationalize that behavior. It makes them more susceptible to certain behaviors down the line, i.e. grooming, by doing these things. So like I bring this up because if you simplify something down to its brass tacks, a binary of left and right, like a child will understand it. Do not steal.
Yeah.
But if you explain to a child, sometimes it's okay to dress up like a woman and dance suggestively for money, a child will sit there and go, you mean all the time it's okay to do that?
Yeah.
No, don't steal. But what you're saying is I can bring children to a strip show and let them dance provocatively in front of children. No, I didn't say that. I'm not saying that it is necessarily wrong for adults to do that, because I don't care. But the reason behind why it would be hard for a child to understand, like the topic of sex, objectively, sex is for procreation. No one's going to deny that. Like, you can move a little bit further down the line and say, well, there's pair bonding that's going on through sex, right?
Yeah.
But again, that is for procreation, to have a more stable relationship, for children to understand behaviors as they grow up. So the pair bonding that's taking place between a man and woman to have sex in order to have a stable relationship goes back to procreation. But as being adults, we understand that there are other reasons to have sex other than procreation or pair bonding, which is a part of procreation, right? We literally have transactional sex that goes on. Like even in the pair bonding group, it's like, I will have sex with you, husband, if you mow the lawn.
Yes.
Right. Or I will have sex with you for money, or I will have sex with you because I'm a 19-year-old girl with very loosely defined morals, and you're Harvey Weinstein, and you're offering me the chance to become a movie star.
Yes.
So if you go up to
allegedly,
well, not allegedly, yeah, he was convicted of stuff. So I don't have to worry about that. But again, like the problem behind it is like the optics of explaining to a child that it is sometimes okay to have sex for things.
Yeah.
So when that creepy groomer comes up to him and says, "Hey kid, you want some candy?" The kid goes, "It is sometimes okay,
yes, to
let him touch me because I want the candy." And if that's something that 19-year-old girl wants to do, or that 42-year-old, or Harvey Weinstein, that 55-year-old guy wants to do, like that's transactional, contractional
with an adult
to an adult,
not a barely a child.
Yes. So the optics of if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. Like you are involved with some world cabal that does not have the best interest of the individual within your nation state or your culture, the entirety of your nation state at heart, because you are rubbing elbows with extra governmental, organizations like Blackrock or the World Economic Forum or Soros-funded NGOs,
or Gates. Gates is big.
The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You can't have multiple allegiances to things, because at the end of the day, back to storytelling, you put things in conflict. In storytelling, how to create tension, you put things in conflict until eventually the character has to make a decision, a binary decision.
Rock hard place.
Yes, rock hard.
Fight,
yes.
Run.
Yes,
die.
So again, like, and this goes back to the identity politics. If you're saying something like, I can be a Black American. Well, at the end of the day, when it's whittled down to the binary of identity, you're going to have to choose between being Black or American. That's why it's politically useful. I have allegiances to Blackrock and to New Zealand. At the end of the day,
wrong.
You're going to have allegiance to one over the other.
Yeah. No, it's exactly. That's what always gets me. That's where we have our of course, I'd like to think that, but again, every single thing just starts making it look, it's like, hey, I'm going to work out.
Sending a 14-year-old to a leadership forum is the road to sending a 35-year-old former Navy SEAL missing an eye to a leadership forum, because at one point Dan Crenshaw was being groomed to become president of the United States. And then he's not bright enough to not put his fucking foot in his mouth because he was towing certain ideological lines that were not, and I hate to put it this way, they were not conservative enough. And he burned himself with a large enough portion of the right that he's probably not viable anymore.
Yeah, well, can't tell. The red flag thing. Red flag. There was a few issues, but that was the one that really got him the one-eyed butt pirate comments from people. And I'm not saying I don't know the guy, but it would appear based on his allegiances, like you said, exactly. Thank you for explaining that to me. You've done it before, and it makes reminding me that yes, he can't be a member of the World Economic Forum and hang out with people from there and represent his district that is a strong Republican stronghold. And you have to choose.
Well, he didn't just become a representative because he was a Navy SEAL. They already knew that they had a guy in their pocket by the time he wanted to enter politics. He'd already been
groomed. Let's use that word.
Yes.
That's more than just kids.
Yes. He'd already been groomed. He'd already developed the access he needed to do it. Because that's the big thing why you can't have grassroots politicians is because at a certain point you have to have shaken enough hands to have developed the infrastructure that you need to move on. Like you could any swinging dick can go be a fucking city council, part of their city council, a small town city council. Anybody can do that. But at a certain point, they're going to deny you the access that you need to become a city council member for LA, because people have already been being groomed. And it, you know, there's a great TV show called The Wire that actually goes into a lot of this stuff. And like I said, like we discussed before, and I bring up all the time, Barack Obama, and I think it's the greatest TV show of all time. Our politics do not align. So whatever he's getting out of that show and whatever I'm getting out of that show,
I think he's laughing. I think he's laughing from the inside. Just
got to be
at it because that represents Chicago, I'm sure, very well.
Oh yeah. So did
maybe
you hear,
Baltimore, but
did you hear? Was it? I know Philadelphia. A politician in Philadelphia pled guilty to voter fraud.
Yes.
And then there was another one. Was it? No, it was St. Louis. Another one
yes.
in St.
Yeah,
Louis.
you're right. Yeah,
an alderman in St. Louis got he resigned because he was indicted for corruption. So going back to these democratic strongholds like Philadelphia and St. Louis, Chicago, Baltimore, you know, Detroit, like, you know, they're you can't have an honest conversation that the culture of one is going to be fundamentally that much different than the culture of the other one.
Well, literally and that's, I'm just trying to find out, to figure things out, right? Mm-hmm. To ask questions, to think, to look at something and go, they seem to all have these exact issues.
Yes.
And they seem to be all stemming from the same, or having the same leaders.
Yes.
D or blue. We can't walk past that and be like, oh, okay, and then continue the conversation without acknowledging that that's a problem, and it all seems to be stemming from these problems stemming from issues that these people have been presiding over for years, and nothing's getting better.
Yeah,
and that's just having an honest conversation about that. That's all. I don't really care. Let's. I could be wrong. I'll admit it. I'm wrong all the time. At least I'll admit it. But it's you have to be willing to have that conversation and to look at it and go, Baltimore was where The Wire was filmed, right?
Yes.
There's very little difference between Baltimore and Chicago and LA and Philadelphia. You know, they're very similar in that view of between the police and politics and everything and the inner city. It's all the same. It's just you just picked one place. So those are the conversations that if you want to actually help people out, figure out the things that correlate and try to fix those.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what it is because it's painfully obvious. So maybe if someone was able to create drive a wedge in there to, but again, there's no access. Anyone that would try to go in there, any dipshit Republican that wants to go in and try to make change.
The LA is going to a runoff for mayor.
Yeah, with the billionaire dude.
Yeah. So the front runner was on the city council. I think she was a former representative. I think her name's Karen Bass. I don't remember the name of the dude, but the name of the dude was a Republican, and then he actually re-registered as a Democrat so he could run in LA. And that's what the runoff is going towards. So the question is, did he just magically, you know, take off his ideological colors that made him a Republican, and then lather himself in progressive ideology, or did he just put a different letter on so when people went to the voting booth, they're like, oh, that guy's got a D next to him,
and that's how bad. I'm glad he segued to that, because I was going to bring that up later about how funny that is, that someone in this time with these things going on within the Democratic Party, that he'd be like, yeah, no, I've always been this. Yes. It's like, no, dude, you're just, again, like, perfect. He didn't have access. There was no way anyone in that city was going to allow an R to come in and have any chance. Yeah. Even in California, if you look, the votes were spread out amongst many Republican candidates for governor, but I mean, they see R and they think, I don't know, whatever they think.
The guy who came in second, I got 12% of the vote in California, and as opposed to the horrible human being that Gavin Newsom's not even a human. But like the android that is that is Gavin Newsom,
the robot.
Yeah, he got 61% of the vote. So like even the aggregate field, Democrats and Republicans could not stand up to Gavin Newsom, who has effectively run the state into the ground. And either, like I said, either it's there's certain susness to how he was able to get in and maintain power through a recall, or it's
people are really
dumb, and I don't know which is the better outcome.
Well,
but we had.
I don't even know which one I would choose. Like, is our political system and our elections a sham and always have been, and that means our republic is a little bit shaky,
a little bit of that.
Or are people so stupid that they?
But the thing is, in California, there's a heavy amount of political disengagement by the population. There's no point to show up because the outcome already seems like it's a done deal.
But that's only recent. Remember, it was Republican.
But you can see how fast that voter suppression. But even in a state like California, if you don't have reasonable candidates that you feel like represent your culture, no one's going to go vote for them.
Or even, are you willing to take 5 minutes to even search that out? I think part of it, talking to all my friends.
So people are that stupid, yes, but at a certain point, you can just politically disengage the people that would be politically engaged because there's no point on them showing.
How do you? All right, we can talk about this forever. How do you engage? Like if you're talking 25 to 30% that are politically disengaged, I don't know. What do you do with those people? Like how do you get? I don't know how to do it to get them engaged where they actually give a shit.
You don't want them. I mean,
but they sway elections.
Yeah, but that's part of the cultural problem that's been going on in this country for decades. Is you don't. I mean, that's how our country was founded. You don't want politically disengaged individuals voting,
but they do, and people show up and go, here's $50. I'll fucking fill out your ballot.
Well, did you hear about Herschel Walker in Georgia?
No.
His campaign was handing out $25 gas cards. But it's legal. But it's legal because all he was basically doing is like, hope you vote. Here's a gas card. I don't even think he may not even saying hope you vote. He's just like, hey, it's me. I'm handing out gas cards. Like, as long as you're not using it as the quid pro quo for votes, like it's legal in Georgia.
Wow.
Yeah.
It still sounds.
It's us.
I like him.
Yeah.
I mean, but again. Here's my perspective. I like him a lot. I've always thought he's an awesome stand-up guy. He is fighting an entrenched, enemy down there. That's gonna do. Obviously, we saw the camera showed what they will do.
Yeah.
So maybe that's his way of tipping the scales. I don't know.
Well, because they're doing stuff like that too. Well, and if you're doing it, and it's legal. Then
what I'm saying is they already did it, and they're already doing it. Yeah. It's how do you do it? At least it's legal. I mean, they clearly counting. Doing what they did, where they shut everything down and counted ballots in the middle of the night is not legal. So yeah, I don't know. It's watching.
You're never going to get people that are politically disengaged. Like there's maybe a small swath of people that are actually politically engaged that are disenfranchised. That's a different. I mean, that's a different group. Yeah, that would probably fall into us. Like, like the on the other side of the spectrum, like that's part of what both sides' strategy is to get people that are politically disengaged to show up as single issue voters, because then you can sway an election.
That's again, here's where I go off the rails. I look at epic timing for all of these things to happen before a potential mad or red wave. Yeah. Right. So if you're concerned about losing
but they've been doing this for years.
I know they've been doing it for years. Yeah. They've passed some. Congress just passed, right? Some you read it. I didn't have the chance to.
What?
The gun.
Yeah.
So they passed. They're sending it to the Senate, right? Mm-hmm. before they lose that advantage.
No, I don't think that's what it was. I think they were there. It's the same reason why Biden gave that 5.8 billion to cancel student loan debt, but it was only $10,000 a piece.
Yeah.
That he canceled the student loan debt. It's because he wants the optics of, see what I did.
Yeah.
If you give me more power, I can do more. And it's the same thing, like the House saying, see what we did. If you give us more power, we can do more. Like in this case, it's like we won't lose, as much ground in the midterms. Like it's the optics behind it, because I don't think it's overwhelmingly they're lying about certain things in the first place in order to pass them. So they're entirely doing it for optics. There's still a chance that they could jam it through the Senate because of, if they get if it's done. I was reading about there's Senate rules that they might be able to just get it through with like the
just a majority,
51 to 50, right?
Yeah, and there's a couple, Johnson, a couple other people are being courted by.
Romney said he'd vote for it.
Of course, so he's fucking that guy is a POS. When if I didn't look it, I forgot to look into it when his term is up to be voted out in Utah. They're not super stoked on. We have a buddy who lives there. They're not big fans of Romney, like Liz Cheney either. That's a whole interesting thing, is that fight between the rhinos and the Trumpers.
Well, and that's that's not a good thing necessarily.
No, I'm not saying it is.
It's the same ideological fight that's going on the left between the quote unquote progressives and the corporate Democrats. I mean, one of the dudes today I was talking about in the podcast, he's a Democrat from Texas, saying that like the AOC branch of the Democrats is ruining the party, because like you can't have this you have to have a market. He literally said the marketplace of ideas within your own party. So like I don't have a problem with certain Democrat or Republicans crossing the aisle and voting with Democrats. Like that's fine. I have a problem with the rationale behind it. I don't have the the fact that, because last night when I was going over the HR 7910, that was the protecting our kids, people under 21 can't buy long weapons. You have Ted Lieu, who's a representative from California, trying to say that, well, he was in the military and he knows guns. And I was like, motherfucker, you were an officer in the Air Force in JAG. They probably showed you a gun in basic training once. And,
it doesn't matter. All he has to do is, who's going to call him? Some weird us.
Yeah.
You, who's like, well, you don't know shit.
And to bring it, I mean, I don't know how many people listen to the thing I did last night, but they had Sheila Jackson Lee from Houston talking about gun control in Houston.
Yeah, Houston. Yeah, they don't shoot people.
Yeah.
They don't already have guns.
Well, they were neck and neck at one point with like Chicago for fucking homicide.
Well, they have the cartel stuff too, so it's like.
Well, I don't know if that's going on in Houston. I think it's just black gang violence.
No, dude. Yeah. No, it's bad. Segue, quick tangent. Yeah, no, they have pretty gnarly cartel stuff in Houston going on.
Oh, really?
It's corridors.
Yeah,
it's corridors.
Well, it's just bleeding.
It doesn't matter. Violence is violence. I don't think that.
Yeah,
anybody cares.
Bang up job in Houston with gun violence.
Yeah,
one way or another. And you're co-sponsoring a bill. You have, was it Jerry Nadler? Antifa is a myth. And who was the other one? Mike Thompson. No, it's Mike Thompson from California, who represents Napa Valley, which is like wine country.
That's where
Sonoma
County.
That's
where Pelosi got his DUI.
Yeah,
and they. So yeah, they're sure they're buddies. They got it all figured out.
Yeah,
all this stuff seems to be working so well. But the thing I don't get is there are actual like laws on the books where they just aren't enforced. Like they knew. If we're now talking about guns, so you want to hang your hat on that win. It's like, well, hold on. The places with the most violence have the most stringent gun laws, and 98% of these shootings happen in it's like no one gives a shit if there's a law. How's the war on drugs going?
Yeah,
terribly. Trillions of dollars are being flushed down the toilet, and their drugs are fucking everywhere.
Yes.
So how are you going to sit there if you're that delusional to think that any of these gun laws are going to have any effect? It's like, what are you going to do? I know police officers. They're like, we need more people with, a good head on their shoulders and a set of balls to have guns. We don't want less guns.
Yeah.
He goes, by the time we get there, we can't affect the change that someone who knows how to use it can do. And I'm not going to go get the guns from you. He's like, I'm going to be hiding my own guns. It's like, I'm one of the people that they're going to be coming for. So it's like,
that's one of the things with like HR 7910. It's like, you wave a magic wand and you turn half your country into criminals overnight. Like
way more than that.
Yeah.
I remember being in line getting some things from the gun store over the last couple of years, and the array of people, the spectrum, like we were looking at that spectrum of voters, where it was all across the board. I saw there was a 60-year-old hippie buying a gun in there. There was a 22-year-old girl in Lululemons getting her pistol.
Well, I told you when Trudeau signed the handgun ban in Canada, the guns magically disappeared overnight. And one of the guys I was listening to on a podcast said that he witnessed a literal bidding match go on for the last handgun in a gun store in Canada.
Oh yeah.
So to think that like this is a very narrow, I mean, like at this point, like believing any polls that are put up there, like one of the stupid ones that they put up there was like, what percentage of the population believes that there should be background checks to buy guns, and it's like you have to have a background check to buy guns. There's a narrow swath of guns that are able to be, for lack of a better way to put it, privately sold or privately transferred. But if you're going to a gun store, you have to have a federal firearms license to sell the gun.
Oh yeah.
So if you don't have a federal firearm license and you're selling massive amounts of guns, you are a gun runner.
Yes.
And you're not going to follow the law that they passed that says
don't give a shit. Again, it's like the drug thing. Clearly no one gives a fuck who doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And the thing that I have been curious about on most of these is the feds have had someone that either worked for them or did work for them that were in contact with the last handful of shooters.
Yeah.
B, these people who didn't have jobs or the economic wherewithal to get money, all of a sudden show up with money.
You show up to Blackrock and then you walk out and everybody goes,
looks weird.
That looks sus. It's like, well, how are they getting thousands of dollars worth of of guns and ammunition? It's like looks sus, and at the end of the day, there might be good reasons behind it. But like we were talking about, I think we were talking about Uvalde on the podcast that I screwed up. But like you have people that are looking for answers, and then they're going to see the pattern of incompetence, whether it's real incompetence or not. Like it looks bad, and then they're going to go, well, it looks like, depending on who you are, you have to look at it and go like, we can solve this by more government, or we can solve this by less government. And if you're the type of person that looks at it and goes like, yeah, that's magical incompetence by the government, let's give them more power.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what to say to you at that point.
Like cheese grater, meat face.
Yeah.
I don't. You're an idiot. Like
I don't. A woman that would walk into the Blackrock headquarters in New York and just be like, I don't care what the plebs think of me, probably should not be your prime minister.
Definitely not reelected. Yeah. All I've ever asked for in anything, and all I and again, I will admit I made mistakes.
Yes.
Make it make sense.
Yes.
Is all I've asked for. And if I can't make it make sense in my explanation of why I did something, then I'm
Janet
Yellen. I just had this conversation with my dad. My wife had some with our first boy. I was on a fire out on the line. She had some issues. She went to the hospital. My department is working to get me off so I can go. Thought she was going to labor. She had an issue with like a little rash on her leg. They wanted to induce her, and magically she said, she held off for just enough till I got there. Doctor says, "All right, so we're going to induce her." And I said, "Oh, why?" Well, no answer.
Yeah.
Induce someone for labor with no fucking answer as to why you want to do it. I told him to get the fuck out of the room.
Yeah.
Like, you're an idiot. Make it make sense. If he had an explanation that made sense, fine. But you're talking about people who are doing things without any rational background, concrete reason. You're a fucking moron.
I went to the World Economic Forum and they said, you will own nothing and you will like it.
And you'll be happy.
Yeah, and you'll be happy. And then when asked, like, well, how does that work? You're like, you will own nothing and you'll be happy.
Repeating words.
Yeah.
It's like, what was it? Oh, crazio. I love that word. Oh,
will that conflict with the culture of certain countries? You will own nothing and you'll be happy. Look, walking into Blackrock looks a little sus. You will own nothing and you will be happy. And it's like, I just want, like, yeah, I know it looked bad, but I had a personal meeting to go to.
Dude,
yeah,
they handle my portfolio. That right there would have like shut a lot of people up. It's like the more you just fucking ignore something, the bigger it gets. Like,
well, that's how you know that there's some issues with the 2022 election or 2020 election, because it was like, let's not protect the sanctity of the elections in the US. Let's just cram Biden through as fast as humanly possible.
Nobody cares. And then I'm just saying it appears.
Yeah, it appears
right now things are coming out.
Yeah.
Like what New Mexico just had I meant to look that up. Actually, I will. New Mexico, they just had a vote on like whether or not Dominion, any of those voting machines are going to be Ohio.
What about like the jab, where it's like slowly but surely every single one of them is coming out as being like probably not the thing that you want to be taking.
It's not even that. It's not only that it doesn't work at average
12% of the time it'll work some of the time,
and that's with the fudge data. So I'm going 5%.
Yeah,
based on Moderna, Johnson Johnson, Pfizer. You cut their efficacy in half because they lied, and you can read the 96,000 pages to figure it out because they did. And
it's so trustworthy that we'll hide it for 75
years. 77 years or whatever it was. Yes. Yeah. And so this is all real. You can go look it up. So yeah, I'd say about 5%, basically average those. And so it's worse than the flu shot as far as efficacy. But then you look at Australia, you look at all these things. I just got COVID. I mentioned this before. We didn't talk about it, but it's hilarious.
That's why it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah. Easiest sickness I've ever been on. But Walter here just has parents that are going for surgery. So I was trying to prevent them from having to test positive, as I tested positive for 2 weeks, despite having 24 hours of a headache and my neck and elbows hurt. And that was it. So we shut down the world, and people are still wearing masks over something that I wouldn't even hadn't acknowledged it.
Well, I mean, there are people ago. I mean, I'm still dealing with whatever I'm dealing with health wise. There are people that had extremely poor adverse reactions to it. I mean, there's nuance to arguments to be made, but at the end of the day, like we were talking about, come out and say things like, I mean, what Bill Gates actually said, in hindsight, it was just a flu.
Yes. But he said that about July 2020 or August.
No, I think he just said it like recently.
He said it recently, but he was mentioning it at the data that they looked at.
Oh yeah.
So they knew it sooner.
Yeah.
But they lied about it.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying is it makes you look fucking bad.
They knew they were going to get blown out in 2020, and it's not
whatever it is, man. It's not supernatural as to why they did it. We talked about that. My point is, Noah Spire, it makes it look fucking terrible. It makes it look like you're actively a cabal of assholes who are trying to, dictate people's lives.
Yeah, and I'm not a fanboy of either side. I think they're both generally incompetent. I mean, that's like we've discussed before. Like, you're not selecting for politicians that are you're wise. I mean, that was the tweet that I sent that moron. I said that because he made a comment about Matthew McConaughey, and he was like, because people were like, Matthew McConaughey needs to run for political office, and the guy's like, no, what we need people in the public eye to do is come out and make people feel things so they'll go do things. And I was like, this is so stupid. I was like, let me see if I understand this. I want to make sure I understand this correctly. You want celebrities who have gained fame not through morality or intelligence to use that fame as propaganda for knee-jerk reactions
and silence.
Yeah, like so again, like you're selecting for people that are willing to use their position of pseudo celebrity
influence
to do knee-jerk reactions. No one wants to, like, again with the mass shootings. Let's talk about what's going on culturally that's making these things happen.
Yeah, let's at least acknowledge that 100% of them, 100%. This couple of political science, psychologists studied the mass shooters since 1966 till now. 100% of them had told someone what their intentions were. So, first of all, maybe there's a lot of people saying crazy shit to people and they just blow it off, and then like 96% of them had like told them their plan. So there's a lot of things that people can do as far as, family and friends, but beyond even trying to fix our culture, which is totally fucked. I'm just saying, like, people maybe pull your head out of your ass for 5 minutes, and like, hey, you have a gun. You told me you told me these things you're gonna do.
But again, like these friends and family don't want to believe it, and and people don't want to get involved. But again, like, there's biological realities between what's going on in these like black neighborhoods and what's going on with like white neighborhoods when you're taking young men that are disenfranchised and disillusioned, and they're doing the same activity, but they're doing it in different ways.
Yeah.
And you're instead of going, what is going on in the black neighborhood that's causing cultural decay? What is going on in the white neighborhoods that are causing cultural decay? You're like, we need to take the guns away from them. Well, you've been doing a bang up job of taking the guns away from them in the black neighborhoods. Like, what do you think is going to happen in the white neighborhoods? Because all you're doing is you're missing the point of why we have this massive cultural divide going on in the country, and a whole bunch of young men that are politically disenfranchised. Even going to what we talked about the other day, where you have young women that are unhappy because they are acting masculine because they've been told by society that they need to be more masculine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, back to the black neighborhoods, white fucking mass shooters. Like, the white kids are generally, ostracized, loners to an extent. Obviously, there's some outliers to that. And the black communities, they're trying to fit in with their peer group because they don't have a familial unit. So, I mean, there are, but at the core, that those are still, whatever the problem, there's still problems that can be handled.
Without legislation,
maybe we should all just
money
stop being money that clearly, like the drugs thing and like literally anything else the government does, which all sucks, by the way. Every single fucking thing. I can go on a tangent about that, but yes, every single thing that they do fucking sucks. And
the government does not even do the military well.
Well, they don't do military, they don't do roads, they don't do. How long have they been jerking around with this road here, the freeway? Forever.
Well, California and their phantom high-speed rail.
Yeah, where is that, by the way?
I think
didn't you ask the chick, the call taker or the whatever for our congressional not congressional, she was our state assembly person, what happened with the money of that? $4 billion? Where'd that go?
$100 billion.
$100 billion gone.
I thought it was 4 billion. And then that's too low. Is it 4 trillion? Is the thinking like, it could have been 4 trillion. And then I got off a podcast. I went and looked it up. It was $100 billion just
gone, doesn't exist. And you think
they built like a very narrow stretch of the
in the middle of nowhere. How about audit the government? Like, it'd be nice if those people had to show their fucking receipts.
Ricada last night, speaking of something I regret saying on a mic, but Ricada last night was talking about somebody. I think he was talking about a lawyer that showed. I think it may have been like a mass shooting. He showed a mass shooting to a judge about for a case that had nothing to do with the mass shooting, about why somebody shouldn't get out of jail. And the judge had basically allowed it or something along the lines. And Rekieta said that flat out, he was like, that guy should be drug out in the street and beaten.
The lawyer?
Yeah. And the his guest, the lady guest that was on with him was like, you know, be careful about that. And he's like, no, I don't care. That guy should be drug out in the street and beaten for what he did, because it was so egregious that he violated someone's rights by influencing a judge emotionally.
Yes.
That had nothing to do with the case, because he was like, it's not about truth. It's not about justice. It's about, I want this guy not to be able to get out, and I don't have a good argument for it. So I'm going to appeal to your emotion as a judge. It goes to show that the judge is a piece of shit. The lawyer is a piece of shit.
But that's what politicians do every day to us, is they go, what's the answer? It's somewhere over here. How can I get pee-pee touches? I'm going to use this, right? I mean, that's, or I don't know.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the cultural problem of, you know, how we view the like the role of government. And every time we look at government and we point at them and we say, like, do something. Like I think I was talking about this the other day on one of my podcasts, but, you know, like, every time we look at government and point at them and say, do something, we're wrong. And every time the government turns around and say, we hear you, we're going to do it, they're wrong. So that's a cultural problem, because we shouldn't be going to government to fix anything. And government should have enough, they should have enough moral fortitude to say, like, we know what you want, but we're not going to do anything because it's not going to solve the problem. Mass shootings will not be solved by banning AR-15s. Mass shootings will be solved by having stronger communities that enfranchise people to not want to go shoot up schools. That's how you solve that problem, right? So like I said, like, it's just a matter of, like, why are we pointing at government at all and asking them to do things that they've historically never shown the ability to do? You know, like, stop pointing at government and asking them to do things. Like, that's our fault. You know, like,
people are lazy.
Yeah.
People are like, I elected you to do this X, Y, and Z, right?
Why did this happen? Why did you let
Tell
this
me,
happen?
explain it to me.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
And most of the time, the people that are causing it are government going, oh, we like Amber Heard, we shit the bed, and now in order to get out of shitting the bed, we're going to make up more lies about potentially not being beaten in order to get out of the fact that we're a raving lunatic that shits the bed and causes problems.
It does coke on in a fucking church.
And in this case, at least in the Johnny Depp situation, it was so outlandish that it was like, the jury's like, yeah, I think you're lying. But in the case of the public, we turn around and go,
maybe we don't
please cause more of this problem. So then we can look at you and say, do something to fix the problem that you caused.
But the nice part about that was, again, hypocrite, funny stories. Was it 2 years ago? Was the Believe All Women?
Yeah.
So I saw a bunch of people with, just, ejaculating Believe All Women all over their social media, and now they're like posting pictures of Johnny Depp like winning. So maybe don't believe all women.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them. I think you touched upon this with the a couple podcasts ago, between the picture with Heard and our vice president, the immaculate one. And maybe you shouldn't believe all women. Just maybe listen to all the facts and maybe figure it out. I don't know. People are good liars.
Well, again, and even like the article you sent me from the Epoch Times about like the population, that like you're disenfranchising men from playing the game, because it's becomes more and more difficult for men to understand the rules of the game because they're changing. So the only ones that you have left playing the games are the ones that are too stupid to care about the outcome of their risks, or the ones that are willing to take such ridiculous risks, not knowing the rules because they're just banking on probability working out in their favor,
or they're just not even thinking. I mean,
well, that's what I'm getting.
Yeah, but I mean, I know
they're not rationally going that I could get lucky. So
I was 28. My head was just I was a walking, testosterone, pill. so it's very difficult for me to go, and I can only imagine the other side. There's a lot of estrogen going around, especially these days. I don't know. I do find it funny that people are swayed so easily again, and just believe all women, go Johnny Depp. It's that's how easy.
Well, but
but
that's
again,
what I was saying. Like talking about the voting, like you don't want those people involved because this is how easy it is.
But they're involved, and they're
what I'm
involved
saying.
in the sense they post something stupid, right? That makes no sense, except if your friends are all Republicans, and so you post whatever the fuck, right? Why do you need an AR-15? Because fuck you, that's why. You post that, and everyone's like, yeah. But you have the people that are just kind of like going along because they're in the friend group. Well, that happens on both sides, and how are they going to vote? I don't know.
Well, but that's what I'm getting at. Like, if you want to have a conversation, and this is what the left is doing, and the right is not. My big problem with the right is that they're not being very intelligent. And not only are they not being very intelligent, they're not being very honest, because you can have the conversation like right now about like voter IDs, right? Part of the issue why the left, whether they will admit it or not, cognitively admit it, like consciously admit it, is with the voter IDs, is it makes someone jump through a hoop to get it done. It is that much more effort.
Well, not only that, it makes it more difficult. Like if you need that to show, like when you drop something off, well, now you can't just drop off 50 ballots.
Well, yeah, but that's the secondary outcome of it. Like the primary outcome, like if you're going to the DMV to get a driver's license, because basically everybody needs to get a driver's license, and they say, "Do you want me to register you to vote right now?" and you don't have to do anything, you're just like, "Yeah, sure."
You don't even notice it.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So like, if you take a whole bunch of people and they have to go to a formal spot and fill out something and get a picture taken and jump through a marginal amount of hoops, they won't do it.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the next step, because if you don't have the people registered, then you can't fraudulently say they voted.
I watched hours of those videos, like where people shovel, the same person is shoveling.
I did see one person, I think maybe it was even Trump, saying that like he would make everybody re-register to vote in the entire country.
Yes. We should wipe it to zero.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't care if you lose. If you want to vote for whoever, cool. But dude, at least let's know who the fuck won. Like if we want to allow our captain to be a fucking retard who can't speak complete sentences and forgets where he is, fine. That's cool. Let all you people, who voted for that, I'll be coming for my my gas money soon.
Yeah.
But joke. At least I'd like to know. Like I don't, in the end, it doesn't like if there's that many dumb people, then we're fucked.
Yeah.
But it would be nice to know that maybe there isn't. I don't know. It would give us some hope.
Well, there is that many. We were discussing the podcast that never happened. We were discussing intelligent distribution over a bell curve. I mean, and you're looking at 70% of the population that falls between 85 and 115 IQ, and then another 15 that falls on the far spectrum below 85, which means you basically can't functionally participate. So that's 85% of the population that is fucking dumb. And again, like we were discussing, like I'm not saying that I don't know what my IQ is. That's not what I'm discussing. And I don't know what my co-host's IQ is. So that's not what I'm discussing. I'm saying there's 85% of the population that falls within a range of people that are somewhere between actually dumb and actually not that bright. That's just what the distribution is. You get above 115, you are gifted. I think it's maybe it's 115, 130 is bright. Anyway, there are
actually some different metrics on that.
Yeah. But. So like, but at the end of the day, like 115 does not necessarily mean that you you're going to know your asshole from your elbow politically. Right. And just because you have 130 IQ does not necessarily mean that you're not going to be swayed emotionally.
Dude, yeah, exactly.
So, but that's why we're talking about, like, have a legitimate conversation about, like, no one's saying that if you're black, you shouldn't vote. What we're saying is if you don't care enough to vote, why are you fucking forcing people to be politically engaged in stuff that they're not politically engaged in?
or allowing someone to give someone $50 and being like, we'll take care of that for you. We know who you want to vote for.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's for a Democrat or Republican.
Let me see that ballot. I'll fill it out for you.
Oh yeah. You don't know how to read? Cool. Yeah. So we'll do that for you. Oh no, Republican. That's not how you spell that. It's spelled Democrat or whatever the fuck. It's just annoying. It's super annoying because every single day new stuff comes out of someone. The ex-congressional guy who just got busted for, like you talked about, for voter fraud in St. Louis, and in the whole issue down in the mayor down in Yuma area that got fucked, right?
Yeah, Arizona,
Sonora
area.
Yeah, so clearly these things happen. It doesn't do it, sweeping it under the rug so you can win doesn't. It's expedient at the time because, and especially if the arm of your propaganda arm all says the big lie.
Well, yeah. Why are you teaching children to even function ethically when you can just jump to the end of the lesson and have them go to a gay drag club to watch a strip show? Why teach them to function ethically as a society, that things like democracy have a value, when you're just going to undermine them on the other end of the spectrum because you know better? Like, just skip to the end and start teaching kids to be corrupt when they're 4, and they'll be much better at it by the time they're your age.
They're kind of doing that.
I mean, well, they are. Yes.
Well, that's the thing about, I meant to mention this, but we get the Kinsey thing about sexuality. Like, when you sexualize kids when they're young, like it rewires their brain to they don't want to like fight. Like, it's kind of like an acceptance. Like, oh, this is the candy and the touch, and okay, and it sets them up to just follow orders, like when they get older. That was the research Alfred Kinsey did. Cool. So now that's encouraged.
Yes.
I am curious though if people are going to start taking kids to actual strip clubs where female, not drag queens, but actual, strip clubs, because it should be allowed. If you're going to allow one, you should allow the other.
Well, I guess there was some special loopholes in this case that made it like stupid. But
I'm sure there are. But
but the response to it is like, now we're going to create. I think Texas was like, now we're going to create legislation that makes it illegal for you to bring kids in. Like, and it's just like
does the government really?
Yeah. Do you need to create legislation that says that men are not allowed in women's bathrooms? Like it's like the idea that certain things we've just taken for granted because it's like, no shit. And it's like, oh, now we have to.
No one's that dumb.
Yeah.
No one's that.
Nope.
The bouncer should have just been able to blast the teacher in the face and be like, get these kids the fuck out of here. Why'd you do that? They're trying to bring kids into a drag queen strip show. Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. Absolutely. You're fine. This teacher's now going to be in jail for being an idiot.
Yeah.
But we're stuck with, there's a loophole. What was it? It doesn't lick itself. I think it was the tagline. Yeah, that was actually.
It's not going to lick itself.
It's not going to lick itself. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, well, and like I said, I've actually like seen people online trying to defend it. Like why does this matter? And it's like it's something that's so simple, and therefore when you go to discuss it, it ends up turning into like this complex thing because like it's so ingrained in how we function as a society. Like we need to protect children. Why?
It's like,
fuck off. Like, I shouldn't have to explain that to you. We need to protect women. Why?
Oh my!
It's like do I really need to start laying out the groundwork for this conversation? Like, there's legitimate reasons behind it, and then when you start thinking about how to phrase it in such a manner, they're like, well, why does that matter? And it's like, because you're a nihilist, you fuck. Like, nothing has any value. Like, that's why you're asking these questions. Like, well, why does that matter that way? And because they're trying to get you to just come up with this baseline response of like, because reasons, and they're like, well, maybe it's wrong. It's like, no, there's legitimate answers to it. Children don't understand shit. Like, you're grooming them to do things. You're grooming them for future behavior, where it just becomes easier to. We all rationalize behavior down the line. It just becomes easier to rationalize behavior at 6 that you would have been rationalizing at 60.
You wouldn't even be exposed to like Why do kids? My biggest thing is just why kids aren't going to do your taxes. They're not driving your car. They're not, they're not doing all these things. Why do they need to have to deal with this emotional?
Why are you stopping 18-year-olds from buying AR-15s, but you're willing to take fucking 7-year-olds and put them in strip clubs?
That's a good question. I agree with you. It doesn't make, I can't even the arguments they make are they're non-existent. They don't.
No, because nothing matters.
Nothing matters. Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the only. I meant to say this earlier. The only bright spot is most of the same people that would do this are also the pro-abortion people that are getting aborted. Yes. And so I'm actually for that. Like, we don't need more idiots, and it's nice that they're taking care of that, because then that's just thrusting a more stupid person into the world for the world to have to deal with.
Yes.
So I meant to say that earlier.
Ocasio-Cortez is so fucking stupid.
Ocasio.
I hope she never has children.
If she does, hopefully she.
And it's getting closer and closer and closer to the fact where she's going to be barren, and therefore she can't if she wanted to. And I think she'd be a bad mom, but at the same time, like you're talking about, like, why would someone that dumb, who is ideological, that the child of that, and if for anybody that's listening out there in the ether, the district attorney of San Francisco that was recalled is the child of terrorists that were convicted of robbing a armored car, and then he was elected as your district attorney, and he turned around and basically said crime is legal in San Francisco, provided you're on the right side of the ideological line.
Yes. Leave your cars unlocked if you don't want people to break your windows.
Yes. Because they're going to break in regardless.
Yeah, and I'm not going to prosecute them for doing so. And
So again, if you don't think that there's a correlation to a certain extent with that nurture aspect, and this is coming from a guy with a background in behavioral science sociology, like, you can see that you can just literally draw a line, like you're discussing, like you can literally draw a line with future behavior when it comes to massive amounts of, like, sexual abuse as a child. There's going to be an outcome, a consequence of that in the child's future.
And that isn't just for the child; it's for every fucking human being that has to be impacted by that poor bastard. Idiot brought into this world and decided to sexually abuse emotionally or whatever, because let's be honest.
Well, the village is going to have to deal with the consequence. It doesn't matter if it was a good person or good people that brought the child in. Like, the consequences to the tribe are going to be manifest in the future. They're going to occur. And as a society, if you're just allowing it to happen in the first place instead of trying to prevent it, you're going to have more time bombs that go off in the future, or more, at least the probability of having more time bombs in the future.
The only thing, I mean, again, I'm not. I know I went on this tangent, abortion, but it's the one thing kind of keeping it in check. I mean, with the crazies that want to, I'm just saying, like, if you're the same person that's gonna be taking kids to drag queen strip club hour or whatever, you should be having as many abortions as humanly possible, so that we don't have to deal with, like you said, the village doesn't have to deal with your fucking stupidity.
All the things that you will do to that child.
Yes. And what was it? Bill Maher says it's remarkably in certain areas. It's very these issues with whatever drag queen hour are very geographical.
Yeah,
it's amazing how that happens. Like, oh, in LA everyone has these issues, but in Ohio or wherever the fuck they don't.
Yeah,
so it makes one wonder if these are real issues or if they're contrived through.
It's almost like Elon Musk trying to figure out, like, how many bots there are on Twitter might be really relevant to the political zeitgeist of society. Like if 80% of, for instance, arbitrarily 80% of Twitter is bots, and they're manufacturing, as I'll say the word twice for no good reason, they're manufacturing a reality, and then they're processing it out into society as it's a real product instead of this false imaginary thing. Because like I said, like I just signed up for Twitter, and when I started looking at it, I mean, it is a horrible place. The takes that are on there, like what did I say on the other day, like with Joy Behar, we were talking today, Joy Behar coming out and saying that, like, when black people get guns, then we'll get gun control in the country. And it was like, all you did was out yourself as a racist. Like that's fine. It's good to know, but you don't.
We already knew that.
Yeah, we already knew that. But like, you think that you're the white savior, but you don't realize that means that you're a racist. That they're incapable of doing certain things in the meantime, but you're there to champion for them, because the moment that the other side knows that they have guns, and it's like, I hate to break it to you, the other side already knows, and they still don't want you to take the guns. And I was like, someone like that, like, I mean, I'm American, go ahead and have your opinion, but someone like that should not be put on television to broadcast the stupidity of their opinion. And anybody that listens to it and doesn't just go like,
garbage person.
Yeah. Oh my God, don't have children.
Yeah. I mean, she's the manifestation of Malcolm X's warning.
Yes.
Of what you don't want to have is someone like that with those deeply repressed feelings towards someone or some culture or some skin color to have a microphone, and a camera on them. First of all, no one should have to see that, so it should just be a microphone, and then someone should be able to take a dump on her metaphorically, when she opens her mouth and says something,
Yeah. Well, and if
if
you surround her on a stupid show with a whole bunch of people in the crowd that are willing to bark like seals every time that she says something, and then you maybe have one person on the panel that is able to push back on her, but you have 4 people that are willing to beat that person with a stick, it's not really, there's no pushback to saying dumb stuff. In fact, that every time you get the barking seals, you're going to double down and say something even dumber to get the digital pee touches. Because once you get the first one, you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. What if I push the envelope this far?
No, it's funny to watch actually happen. Like, that show is the perfect manifestation of like my life for like 20 years of like, hey, I'm not, I have friends that are on one spectrum and I'm kind of in the middle, but I'm forced to call people. Like, again, I said this before, Republicans are pussies, Democrats are assholes. I don't like either one, but I'm forced to call people out, when they say stupid stuff, and then I get bombarded. It's like being that one woman that was on there that was like, I'm a gun owner, and this is kind of the situation.
I'm a black Republican,
and then you just get fucked. You just get yelled. It's just this tornado of
oxymoron to me. That was the response that she got back.
Yeah, well, that was the same woman, but yeah, they didn't say it at that time. They said it a couple weeks before, which again, that's you can't think.
Yeah.
A black person can't have an opinion. It's not what white Democrats tell you to do. It's like, once again,
black people are not allowed to have individual opinions. They all have to have one hive mind. There's nothing racist about that. Generalizing one group.
And the arrogance with which those things are said, without even like recognizing how bad, like how, dude, if I said that, like, and I realized that at some point you're gonna go, either you're not gonna realize that you're that racist because you're repressing it so much you believe you, or you go, oh shit, I didn't mean that to come off like that. Like, they can't have any of those like feelings. They have to just be like, they are so repressing their fucking racism down there, just like, no, really, just it's all for the good of you.
It's about making it about themselves.
Yeah.
And that means like, you couldn't make it if it wasn't for me putting a hand down to pull you up.
100%.
And the Republicans, well, I shouldn't even say the Republicans. There are certain people on the other side of the spectrum that go like, I ain't helping you up because you can get out of that hole by yourself. I did it too. Like, and that's the ideological difference is, one side's like, I don't think, I mean, literally you've had people point this out that like, they're like, Republicans don't think about you. you know, and you have certain people who are like, well, that's why I won't vote for him. And they're like, but you don't understand that like most white people don't wake up and go like, I worry about the problems of black people because they're living their own lives.
They're worried about their own fucking problems.
So when you have someone that's like, I wake up and I'm worried about those black people, it's like, why are you worried about someone else's life? And you should probably not. This is Malcolm X. Why do you trust the person that's like, I'm going to worry about your problems instead of my problems?
And that
what are they getting out of it?
No, dude. And that same person has friends that are, or ideological, you know, cohorts that are maybe in charge of the cities where they're not allowing the education, the crime is. They're in charge of the problems that they're saying they're trying to fix.
Maxine Waters, these black politicians in these inner cities,
white and black.
If I solve the problem for you as a black politician, I wouldn't be able to say, vote for me and I'll solve the problem.
Exactly.
I've solved the problem, and then at the moment I solve the problem, they're like, well, I'll go vote for somebody else.
Yeah,
and you're like, well, no, I can't have this. Oh, that's, I mean, like literally why they say, like, I was reading some god awful article the other day of this opinion piece where they were like,
oh my god,
they're like, you know, these progressive DAs are not causing the problems in these cities. It's the fact that they're in red states. It's still the Republican problem of why these blue cities are run so poorly. And it was like,
yeah, well,
what?
You own that house, man.
Yeah.
Like if you live on a street and you bought a house and it was status quo with every other house, and then you bought it, now you're in charge of it and it's a fucking dump. That's on you.
Yeah.
And anyone that tries to say anything different, out of their fucking mind. Look, the problems that these poor people have to fucking deal with are directly responsible from the people, like you said, that are claiming to give a shit.
Yeah.
And maybe open up some investment, maybe open up some, again, the worst thing I've ever seen, like maybe not that, but nearly was the Washington DC. There was an investigation, like undercover kind of thing into private schools,
the charter
schools, and watching the reaction of these kids who didn't get selected was probably one of the worst things I've ever seen. Yeah. Like, oh, they didn't just not get into school, their lives are fucked because they have to go back to this garbage factory where no one gives a shit, and 80% of the people that even graduate can't read it at a first grade level.
That's my phone goes.
Yeah, I don't care. Yeah, so it's anyone who is self-aware or aware at all should be able to read through the bullshit. But apparently, you know, it's a limited skill that you don't learn in college because they don't teach you how to think on your own in college.
That's a different conversation.
Well, of course you can't.
That was my mom saying that she's home from
surgery.
Yeah,
she's feeling good.
I'll tell her that you said that she's a bitch.
I didn't say that. Bro. Don't put words. Yeah. No, that's a whole. I get that. It's a whole other topic. The idea we talked about this of educated.
Because I was thinking, I was kind of piecing this together. I probably shouldn't bring this up now, but who cares? So I was thinking about education.
I fucking hate this chick's face. Can we put up something funny? Sorry, keep talking, but I'm gonna put something over her face. I just can't look at it. Keep talking. She annoys the shit out of me.
I get
No. Keep talking. Say what you're gonna say. I have such disdain for this human being and everything she's about that she's a garbage person. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
I'd rather look at Boris Johnson than her. Well, at least he's just. They're not trying to pawn him off as something different. He's about to get screwed again. He's about to get elected out as well. So
no, well, I talked about it the other day because I'll go back to what I was going to say in a second.
Yeah.
As we were screwing around.
Yeah.
So no, they did their vote of confidence and he passed. But like, I was listening to the British pundits say that like when they have the no confidence vote, it basically means that he's done.
Yeah, he's fucked.
He's going to end up resigning. They're basically going to they more than likely what they did from an optics standpoint was just said like, oh yeah, because they're not going to throw their own guy under the bus unless he's like really that bad. And they're basically like, we're gonna dot our T's and cross our I's, and then you're gonna leave of your own volition, and they're gonna go a different direction. That's bad. That the Conservative parties, the Tories over there in the UK are really, they're really what's the word? They're more like our leftists or liberals, I should say, and their Labor Party are socialists. They're commies. So they don't really have a functioning left and right type of situation going on. I can go over there in a second as
it's fine.
Talking.
Just go do
but,
what you were going to say before I interrupt you. I didn't mean to. I just
no. It's like going back to like that the idea of like understanding how rules are established, like how contractual, how much negotiation that we have on a day-to-day basis when we do everything. Everything is we're negotiating with each other, and we're playing off prior rules, contracts that we have, like we discussed before. Like if I'm walking down the street on a sidewalk and I see someone else, like I have to assume that we have a social contract with each other, that you're not going to punch me in the face. And if I see you acting a certain way that's erratic, my brain goes, he's not playing by the rules, I need to get away from him. In the same context that someone who's being really erratic that's walking down, there's a probability that they could be willing to offer you the shirt off their back. You're just not going to take the chance that they're going to be the guy that goes, here's a $25 gas card. Like you're like, I'm going to go to the other side of the street. So the idea, back to the grooming of children, when they go to like these strip clubs, these hypersexualized situations, it's not even necessarily education or teaching. I don't think that's fair. It's the example. It's how we learn. Because we're constantly pushing boundaries to establish our identities, our individual identities. And the idea is like, the easiest thing to do is emulate what I see, right? The information is neither created nor destroyed. So I see it and I emulate it, like it's transformed. So like, it's not getting to the third set of rules, or excuse me, it's not getting the second set of rules. Anybody can look at the second set of rules and going like, I see it, I emulate it. How can I push the identity forward? Right? It's the third set of rules, the one that is really deep, that you have to, through trial and error, figure out. So like the socialization behind it, where you're looking at the base level understanding of that binary, and the more complex it gets down the line, and I'm avoiding saying pattern recognition on purpose, but
I know.
Yeah. So the further you get down the line, that innovation that comes from being able to define things outside of there's a reason why school shootings are a thing, because you see it, I shouldn't say people see it on the news and then they emulate it.
They see the person's name.
Yes.
That was the big thing. Sorry.
And like we discussed before, and there's certain things that we won't say on the podcast. It's a good thing that the next one doesn't have the ability to not tinker with what has been going on. It's the fact that they can't take two steps down the line and really decide how they want to make hay. Like you look at inner cities, that's what's going on, is the very baseline level of socialization that's going on, i.e. like the Democrats like to say, we need to teach people, like you're talking about with like people not being able to go to charter schools. The very baseline level of social interaction, if I punch you in the face, you'll punch me back.
Yeah.
Right. That's what's going on at this baseline level in better areas, because of more stable households and other ability to socialize. You're getting more complex rule sets. And then that allows you to get to the point where you're like, I'm able to innovate past the baseline. Like I can look at something and go like, there's an entirely different application for how to play that game.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the educational prospect is not by sitting in a class. It's how to think, not what to think.
I was going to say that's beyond the teach them. That's
yes.
that's given the opportunity,
Yes.
like here's 2 sticks or whatever, and go figure it out.
You can give anyone a fish and they'll eat for a day. You can teach someone to fish and they'll eat for the rest of their life. If they innovate and they realize that they can use nets, then they can employ the entire village, and the entire village can eat for the rest of their lives. Like that's the third step, right? That we talk about, like it's proximal zone of learning. But like these are the
that's right.
This is the interesting stuff about like how you're disincentivizing some of these groups, because like you're not even, and I saw this when I was in the Army, when I was around all these groups where you had people that had never been socialized to brush their teeth every day.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about like what you just said, that whole imagine telling all white kids and black kids that they're bad or that they're incapable.
Yes.
What outcome besides chaos and tragedy is going to happen? There are none, because you don't do these poor kids being told that is who they are because they were born with whatever melanin or whatever in whatever area. That's awesome. They are setting up more school shooters. They're setting up more people to shoot people in the ghetto.
Yes.
By telling them that if you're white, you're a bad person because of your skin color, and B, if you're black, you can't do anything because of your skin color. Like,
yes,
you're exponentially multiplying the poor outcomes of a weekend in Chicago or a school shooting in Uvalde. You're creating those in every neighborhood.
Well, yeah, but think about it this way: like the
right. Or am I wrong? I don't know.
Well, yeah, no, you are. You're raising the probability that those are going to occur, but you're also lowering the probability that you're going to have people that are able to break the spell.
Yes.
And even like,
by
God,
thinking.
who was I listening to? There's another podcast I was listening to that they were talking about, like, no one wants to be a corporate wage slave, right? Like you're just increasing the probability that people are going to be like, this is the track that I have, and I only can operate within the rules that I was given. I'm not able to test those rules and establish an individual identity.
Yeah.
Like I have to go get a job at Amazon. I have to go get a job at Google. I had like the third step being like, like I'm going to do X and that'll allow me to do Y, and then I can build my own Amazon.
Exactly.
Or I can build a better Amazon. Like there's back to that, the cabal, the Bond villain headquarters of Blackrock. The big problem with that is like whatever if this existed, whatever they decided to come up with, the big problem is they're limiting the scope of human capability, because you're not going to have the probability to occur that you have your next Einstein, or your next Nikola Tesla, or your next like Martin Luther King, or your next any of these great humans, because there just isn't enough ability to recognize the next step that could possibly occur. Because again, like the idea of like trust the science, right? Where it's like the science is set. There's no point on seeing if or challenging the rules of science, because you've already told someone like, oh, we've already done that. It's this is the only way you can
ask
see
no
things.
questions.
Yes.
Dude, I can't fathom that. Like right now,
no.
Like, what's funny is I was actually.
That's why I'm saying I don't believe in this grand cabal, because like
it's dumb.
Like that,
but
that's
dude,
why I keep telling you.
It looks like it is, man.
Well, if it is like that, but that's
they're
why,
dumb.
Well, this is why I've been telling you.
Sorry,
if they exist, it's not that like, because there's a part of it is if they exist, then they should be running the world. But then there's the other part of it is if they exist, like the level of incompetence that they have to have in order to sustain themselves means that they're eventually just going to fall apart, like a drunk shitting his pants.
Like the average hobo bum, I guess it is. Well,
The average San Francisco junkie.
Oh, dude, two stories. One, yes, I think that you're right. Most days I look at it, I go, oh God, they can't be this dumb and it can't happen. But they keep opening doors to like let you look at like what they're talking about. Again, I'm trying to get in shape, so I'm working out. I'm like going to the gym. You know, I say it, I do it. There's that, you know, argument for me is they just keep doing what they say they're going to do, and it appears, but they are incompetent. Because again, I think ideology is the determining factor for them, you being picked, right? So then you're not. It's not intelligence. It's whether or not you're going to go with the plan. Like Trudeau, when he was running from the truckers, like, or that whole thing went down. It's like, no, dude, you're embarrassing us all. Like, you look bad.
Yeah.
Like, fix your shit. But also that with the what you just said about limiting the intelligence by not that thinking, that third getting to that point where it's like, how can I build a better mousetrap, right?
Yes.
And so when you limit that, and then you're talking about, well, we talked about for a minute, the population potentially having an issue, and then you're again, you're not those Elon Musks, those you know, those brainiacs. I don't put Bill Gates in a brainiac. He's a great salesman. I don't think he's highly intelligent.
Good grifter.
He's a great. I would love to have I don't think that guy's that smart, honestly. He's very, very good salesman. Actually, I listened to a salesman talk about how good a salesman that Bill Gates was, because he sold shitty fucking software for years.
Yeah.
And now he's selling shitty vaccines. And he's doing a good job. He's great at what he does because he actually believes in it. He's convinced himself that he believes in it. So yeah, I'm heartbroken. I keep going back to those poor girls and boys that were in Washington D.C. when they didn't get picked. Yeah. It was just like this fucking nightmare where, if you cared, right? I mean, or I don't know. I'm just looking at, like, if you actually gave a shit about these kids, you would be like, oh, we need more spots for them to go, like more places.
There was one of the head of the teachers unions that wrote her memo got leaked, where she basically was like, I would advise you to think about voting against charter schools, because if they pass more charter schools, that means less money for us.
Well, yeah, it's and maybe there'll be reprisals.
You don't give a shit about the outcome.
100%.
You just care about your political situation.
It's your power. It's
because if you had more
power for the sake of power,
if you had more charter schools, you'd have more absolute catastrophes, but you'd have more absolute successes, triumphs, and you'd end up with less absolute catastrophes, because you'd understand what the baseline, the rule set level 1 would be to running a charter school, and the chances of it being run less than that standard goes down, and therefore your only outcomes are competence or hyper competence. You know, so incompetence goes away. But again, like the people that are disincentivized to do that are the people that would lose power, because like they have no purpose once baseline competence is found. So like we were talking about with the cabal, you're looking at, you know, now we could, from a geopolitical standpoint, we could talk about like China or Russia, and why you have the destabilization that's going on, why they want the incompetence in the West.
Yeah.
And because it is not about the West being competent to them. If the West continue, even like Soros does not want the America to continue to be the hegemon. So he wants to destabilize America.
But he hates China too.
Yeah.
Sorry. Because he's always.
But they're moving. Like we discussed before, there's something to be said about the potential for mankind to ever have some type of like shared culture, i.e., like, you know, like a shared constitution and Bill of Rights. You know, like there's that idea that if you could establish that, then you would have less conflict. But that's to say that human beings are biologically wired for conflict and suffering and adversity. You know, we seek it out
because you're everyone's got part of a tribe, even countries, but even within like family units, like tribes, like we are wired to have conflict. That is, yes, at every level.
I'm having a bad hair day, and therefore I will freak out like it's 9/11, because that is my baseline is
response.
So therefore any adversity that I face is going to have a proportional response to my baseline. So then you get guys that are like special forces guys that have been shot at so many times, and their baseline is, I up it to a 6 now that I'm being shot at, because I've been shot at so many times. I no longer jump to a 10 in this situation. That's the same thing. Like, so I hate the human nature argument, because I think it invalidates what is actually being said about humanity, because I think it's just a cop-out answer. Like, well, you don't understand human nature. Elucidate me. Like, go ahead and explain to me what you mean by human nature. Because again, like, if you're just throwing buzzwords out there for the sake of throwing buzzwords out there, then they lose their meaning. We were kind of discussing this in the first place earlier, I think. But like, yeah, like it's just some of these things you go down the line, and it's like you see the pattern, because there is a pattern there. It's just like, like if you watch ants, going to and fro, there is a pattern behind what they're doing.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But
do they know other than just go from here to there? Yeah. Well, that's the frustrating part is they say that the air quote educated women with an education, how about that, are like the big, they make formally educated
education.
Yeah, however you want to say. I don't like to say educated. That implies that you're constantly keeping up on that and you're able to think. Yeah. And I'm not saying that they aren't, but I'm saying that at some point during the schooling, they might have been introduced to some things that got them to think or got them to feel and to vote a certain way, and it to their detriment, in my opinion. It doesn't, and they tend to sway a large swath of the voting block, right? Yeah. When they vote. And I don't know that it actually benefits them in the end. Like we've talked about whether or not certain people are happy with the story of how their lives should be better if they're maybe not married, or maybe, and there's all these things. And it's like, well, if you want to have a certain set of an ending or a family or whatever it is, you're voting directly in contradiction to that, to having a successful, ending to that, or a successful transition as you grow your kids and all these things. And it's like, it's endemic in a lot of these areas, even areas we live, where people have some money, they have some time, and they apparently think that they live in a bubble.
Yes.
And the world,
everybody lives. Yeah.
I was about to say, everyone lives in a bubble, but when your bubble is so isolated and so far from I have a friend, captain I work with, who's, he has some weapons, guns, legal. And some neighbors found out that he had some guns. Like, well, we don't want our kids coming over. He's like, well, they're in a fucking safe. It's like, yeah, we're not really into that. So no. He's like, all right, whatever. I don't give a shit. Do whatever.
Yeah.
A couple weeks later, no shit, a woman from the neighborhood got raped by a homeless person whilst walking on the trail. The next day, those same idiots were like, hey, where'd you get your guns? Bubble, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to view the world a certain way. Again, if you cared about those black kids in the inner city, you would be doing everything you can, even within your bubble, to get rid of those people that are holding them down, who say that they're helping them.
Yeah, but that's why I like going to talk about identity. Like,
that's my opinion.
If you didn't have that bubble, that means that you haven't established a rigid identity. There's a certain amount, you have to have enough flexibility in your identity to adapt to change.
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't have enough flexibility and you're just rigid, then that change will be catastrophic, right? But a lot of people, they end up creating, especially with the lack of adversity, they end up creating more rigid identity. That means they can't. So something like that would challenge their worldview, and therefore they are capable of changing, but only once that stimulus is introduced. So you're asking them to be able to have a certain amount of foresight that is generally lacking in people.
I'm aware that I might be wrong most of the times, and that was my opinion. But it was my opinion. Again, we've taught. Yes, everyone has a worldview. Yes, it can be shattered. Yes, especially if
which
you're
also
exposed,
it shatters your sense of self because of how much they're entwined. So if you view the world rigidly, and you're right, and there's no possibility of you being wrong. It's almost like in physics where like hardness equals brittleness.
Yes, 100%. No, I'm saying is I find it ironic that the people who care so much vote for the things that just continue to fuck people over.
Yeah.
That's all I was getting to.
Like, it's a bigger conversation to be had about, and I don't like to say democracy. I think that word has been,
it's a shitty word.
Yeah, shitty has been fucked over. But like the conversation to be had about democracy may be having to how can we remove people from the vote? And I don't necessarily think it's about. I don't think you have to like pass some draconian laws. I think if you make it really easy for someone to vote while they're taking a shit, everyone will just be like, I mean, it's just like, oh, in order to get my toilet paper, I have to, or flush the toilet, I have to hit yes or no. Everybody's going to vote. So like, again, if you make it just hard enough for someone, because they're going to have to get up off their couch and go down and like register and prove their identity and get a picture taken, you're probably going to end up removing enough people from the voting pool that you would have a much better stock of people, because then everybody could go vote. I'm not saying it has to be like a Starship Troopers where like service equals citizenship, like
you don't, or in Israel, you don't have to join the military.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. How about give enough of a fuck to go to the gas station or wherever you have to go to say, that's me, I want to do this.
Yes.
30 seconds out of your life.
Yes. And you would be shocked how many people that would just cut out.
Yeah. And by the way, they do this in most other countries. Yeah. So that's not but it would cut into certain people's voting block.
Yes.
And again, I'm not a big fan. I wasn't a big fan of some of the Rights Patriot Act bullshit and George Bush and all that. It just so happens that certain people on the left are a little bit fascist right now. Communist, however you want to say it, same thing.
Honest communism.
Honest communism, fascism.
They're dishonest right now.
They are dishonest. Well, they're trying to keep their heads above water. But what's her name? The brilliant and so eloquently spoken press secretary said today that our economy is doing better than it has in the past.
It's historically best.
Historically best.
And the Biden economy is therefore best equipped to handle the inflation that the Biden economy. She didn't say the second part where I'm going to literally say that, because I said that today.
The Biden economy.
Yeah, No, she said that the Biden economy is best equipped to handle the inflation. And I'm sitting there in my podcast today where I was like, the Biden economy that caused the Biden inflation. Like it's your historically best economy caused this.
Yeah. And it's still worse than it was when you started to create this economy. Yeah. It's gases.
Yeah. So but at least Janet Yellen came out and she was like, hey, thanks. I was wrong.
I was wrong. I'm done.
Everyone told me
I'm done.
Yeah. My bubble said that it wasn't. And dude, I was wrong.
Just pull your head out of your ass long enough to take a breath of fresh air and realize that, take a view that is unimpeded by your own fecal matter. What I wanted to point out earlier is Eastlake Foundation about the charter schools. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you, they're one of the worst areas to live in the 80s. They went in and they charter schooled it out.
What, in
Eastlake in Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta.
Eastlake Elementary. There's a Drew charter school. There's a handful of different elements to this equation. This actual philanthropic dude went in there and said we need to do something. It was like highest murder rate, blah blah blah. Terrible situation. And now they have one of the highest college placement. Same people that lived in this area. They just developed it and created these elementary one of the highest placements for college in the country from a school. So talk about potential within 30 years. This was going back even 15 years ago. So as a benchmark, as a template to use, you can do this in literally everywhere.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. It'd be nice if there was some acknowledgement that we could do things better, because we're trying to do things better. We're just trying to have a conversation, and I'm trying to learn things from you. You want to make fun of me, and that's kind of how it goes. And that's kind of how our relationship has been with things. But it's fun, and everyone walks away. At least I walk away smarter, and you walk away with more jokes to tell me. But all I'm trying to do is figure out how to look at the world a little bit better, and you help me out with that.
Oh yeah.
And it's these things nobody really talks about. Like, it's like, no, there are plenty of really good examples of how if you just let things people figure it out.
If people didn't understand how poor the teachers unions in this country are, how I shouldn't say poor, I think the word would be corrupt. That they're actively fighting against having better school systems and the charter schools, like we kind of touched on it a little bit today. Like that's a big problem that's going on. Like that you actually have your teachers unions that are fighting against it. And there was an article I brought up the other day. The largest school teachers union only uses 9% of its funding to benefit teachers. The second largest teachers union only uses 36% of its budget to benefit teachers. And so the second largest teachers union, this was the article, has 27% of its funding goes to political stuff. And I believe it's like more than half for the top teachers union, so you have
billions of dollars
that are just going to things, and they have no incentive to solve the school problems, because if they solve the school problems, again, their funding would go down.
It's if Maxine Waters or any of these idiots fixed their cities or their districts, they might be out of a job.
Yeah.
I mean, they shouldn't be, but because if you did something for 40 years and you sucked and all of a sudden you fixed it, it'd be kind of obvious that you were maybe bad at your job. But also the thing that's funny about the teachers unions is that beyond the political contributions, beyond everything else, they can't allow it to happen. They can't allow, if they created more people that could build a better mousetrap, well, then they're going to grow up and be like, then it works, right? Then it works. But the problem is they're not. And so nobody, the last 30 years is the larger percentage is, in my opinion, not going, hey, I got shortchanged there. I didn't, when I asked the question, they didn't allow me to expand or write on it. They didn't expect me to ask these questions and to think and to do all these things. I mean, we went to college. I don't know. I had very little questions asked that people wanted to hear. They wanted to just regurgitation. That's what you get. And so what do you get with that? You get people who don't give a shit. They're disengaged.
Yeah.
But you've been disengaged for all of your education because there's no outside the box thinking that's encouraged.
No,
in my opinion. Like, hey man, like,
and again, you look at that bell curve and it's designed for,
dude. But even if you're dumb, even if you're on the low end of that, you can figure shit out, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying it's designed from a standardization standpoint. Like it's not designed to deal with anything. It's a conveyor belt. Like that's what it's designed to do. And we would talk about like I think a prior podcast we kind of talked about like efficiency and efficacy, but like it's the same thing where it's like you're there. The more that you had teachers without rules that could try and create that thought, the more you'd have catastrophic failures in the class. You'd have that kid with that 87 IQ that like got through and learned absolutely nothing. But it might benefit everybody that had an IQ of 105 to 115, and then everybody in the middle was a coin flip. You know, like,
is it harder to come up with some, not create your own idea, but
yes,
to think outside the box than is to just straight regurgitate? Like,
well,
I don't.
But that's what the thing is. Like, you're looking at a strong possibility that just from a human being standpoint, that most people are not designed to function outside of the box. Like,
I hate boxes.
Yeah, functioning is, for like the Pietro principle, the 80-20 rule. Like, you're like, it's most people are designed to operate at standardization.
Get along to get along.
Yes.
Okay. Fine.
So
you're limiting, in the end, you're limiting the potential of the human potential by not pulling those things out of people, unless they go to private school where they get that. But even private schools are fucked up now.
Yeah, but even then, like, it's not entirely that you're like,
I'm just making you.
Yeah, it's
annoyed. These are questions that I have, man. I'm always thinking about this stuff, and my wife's always like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Well, if the shit's annoying, I have a kid, and I'm like, well, do I want him to go to school? Right? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Do I want him to go to private school or public school? Well, there's benefits to both. Well, it's like, well, if he goes to public school, what the fuck? It's a garbage. It's hot trash, hot garbage. I want nothing to do with that. But there is a socialization.
Well, there's not. But everybody believes everybody believes that their kid is going to, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people believe that their kid is going to be more special than they are. Like again, me coaching football, there's a lot of parents that are like, I know better, and like I have a rule where I never interact with parents. Like I limit it very, very much because like I don't want to have those conversations because I would just turn around and say, like, your kid ain't going to the NFL, period. And I can explain.
Well, there's difference between delusional and wanting a better outcome based on input, right? So that's all I'm saying. I hear exactly what you're saying, but do you want to immediately limit their potential by what they're exposed to?
No, but that's what I'm getting at. Like, how much more if there were, for lack of a better way to put it, if there were rules that everyone could follow to potentially get to the point where they could maximize the potential of their children.
Yes.
Would everybody follow it?
No, absolutely not.
No. But at the same time, would a lot of people try and emulate that to the best of their abilities?
No.
Yes.
I think that they would rationalize in their brain that they're going to do it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They would try to emulate it to the best of their abilities. It doesn't mean that they would do it perfectly. They would look at it, and some of them would go like, I could build a better mousetrap. Some would be so rigid with it that they would try and follow it to the letter. But by and large,
think you're right. Sorry, I think you're right. Yeah. My bad. Here's my example. All right, so I'm sorry to butt in. I've been doing this knees over toes thing, right? Yeah. ATG, Athletic Truth Group. It's rehab basically for your body, right? It's physical therapy through exercise. Exercise is your physical therapy. Yeah. And I've had dramatic results to the point where I no longer am concerned about needing knee surgery.
Not sponsored
yet. Just kidding. And so I'm trying to figure this out and trying to, for my job, it's slightly different. We'll need different exercises, different things in there because the workout program that they have is tailored for mostly for knees and for basketball.
Yeah.
But I have shown this and people have seen my progress, and I've shown this to people, and there is like you said, a Pareto almost principle of people who respond with their desire to do it. Right. Yeah. So I have people that are like, yep. And I'm doing it. And dude, their results are fucking out of control. Like dudes that are older than me, more fucked up than me, had surgeries, crushing it.
Yeah.
Like they're like, dude, what else do you have? I'm like, well, I'm learning it. Like, I'm trying to, I'm getting into the box, like trying to pull stuff out to show you. And they're like, yeah, I want all of it, you know? And then there's the guys that I show them like, dude, you're fucked. Like there's a guy I call him question mark. He just walks like a question mark. His shoulders are maybe 3 inches difference in height. Back is a full on like, not spina bifida or anything, but like we look scoliosis. We look from the back, you can actually see the curvature of it. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, in his legs. And I tell him, he's like, yeah, it seems like a lot of work. I'm like, you look at 60 minutes a week.
Yeah.
It's not that much to not be fucking physically disabled at like 40 years old. And so I know I'm going on this tangent, but it's just really frustrating. I found I was like, dude, look at people who would spend 20 to 30 minutes 3 times a week are like, it's too much. But they'll buy $50 of pre-workout, you know, religiously every month. Like, Lord of Cock or whatever the fuck it's called. And they're just going to hammer that, which does nothing for you, but messes with your heart and your vascularity and all that stuff. But it's like, here's your back hurts? Do these 7 things and in a month you'll be better. I don't know. I kind of like doing what I'm, you know, it just, and so when you say something like that, I think to that and go, God, dude, I don't think you're 100%. I don't know if there's 20% of the people that are willing to put in the actual effort, which is not even always that much to have an outcome that's better. And that's the frustrating part. It's like, I should go into selling.
That's what I'm saying. Like people would do things without even knowing why. What?
Well, I mean, if there was a better outcome, you would hope that people would go, okay, you know, and I get that there's always like, oh, it's new stuff. So yeah, it's like, well, people want to try this because it's new. But if it's a proven thing or a shown thing, you would think that, you know, people would want to emulate the things that give results, right? But who knows? I could be wrong. I'm out of my mind. And I'm just talking like a crazy person, but it is I said that I think it'd be a better thing if I came up with a new kind of fucking pre-workout that someone could just take to feel better and not even exercise, than actually fix them.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I'm saying?
Well, that's why people do what they do. Cause like it is easier to sell the magic bullet than it is for like, you know, like to sell the answer that people don't want to hear. Like that's what we talk about when we get around and we talk about it. It's like, how could we actually fix this problem? And it's like, once you get into how to fix it, it's so easy, but it ends up being so contradictory to the established system that like, it's like everybody be like, it can't be that easy.
And you're like, yeah, but you have to like take 10 minutes out of your life every third Thursday. And they're like, oh, it seems like a lot. Yeah. Like I spend 7 hours on Instagram every day, but there's no way I can find 10 minutes to fix my shit. And that's the thing. It gets kind of annoying.
Someone goes like, how do you lose weight? And it's like, well, the first thing I would suggest is to stop drinking soda pop. I'm not going to do that. How do I lose weight?
I'm going to go back to that first one.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the first one.
It's literally the only one, dude.
So there's no point in going to number 2. No point.
How many Mountain Dews do you drink? 7.
How many beers a week do you drink? Yeah, it's like.
Oh God. Yeah, but that's the frustrating thing. So we talking about outcomes for your kids. First of all, are you aware of what you can do to improve their potential? Secondly, are you willing to make the sacrifice? Thirdly, what's the probability of you willing to make that? You know,
it's funny that you bring that up because that's like the abortion issue and schools. Like a lot of parents, when we go back to like the political disengagement, a lot of parents, they're like, well, I know my school district sucks, but it's a lot of work to be able to figure out where to move to and do the whole thing of getting up and moving to get my kid out of, I guess the school district's good enough for my kid. But you just literally said, you know, it's an absolute dumpster fire. Well, yeah, but where am I supposed to move to? I don't know, someplace else.
Or like, oh man, like this whole pod thing, which came up during the pandemic, where people could meet, but they could be 10 kids could get together in an area outside and sit on a grassy knoll and have a conversation, right? and have a teacher, and you're like, okay, hold on, let me do the math on this. 10 kids, how much it costs? Around $12,000 to $14,000 in California for a kid. You have 10 kids, one teacher, $120,000 for a teacher. Average teacher makes $55,000 a year. It would seem to behoove everyone that a teacher could find, and it's like, well, these exist. You could just piggyback off what this other person who's done it down the street. They're having them in neighborhoods, cul-de-sacs. And actually my wife's good friend has it's basically a homeschool pod where 3 days a week they're doing some badass shit. They're like, oh, we're gonna go I don't know, like pick mussels off of the rocks and like learn about eddy pond, whatever species, and then now we're going to the zoo, and then we're gonna go play whatever the fuck, some sport. And it's like, and then they're getting in badass education where they're reading a bunch and they're submitting reports and all, and it's like that template is there. And it's whether or not you're, like you said, it's like, is the 10 minutes to like research this worth it? Like, I don't fucking know. Like, to me, yeah, it is, to know how bad it is. And it's not, God, I hate even saying this, but it's not, I don't mean to shit on teachers. It's like, I do. That's, I know, but that's the world that is been created, and they have to live in it to an extent, right? So was it 30 to 40 kids a teach? Like, clearly it's unsustainable. You can't reach what is it, 20% or 30%? It's gonna be fucking irrevocably harmed by being in that situation where they can't get help, either the top end or the bottom end. Because if you try to help the bottom end, the top end can never excel. If you have the top end, the bottom is never going to excel.
And then you're segregating by groups. Like,
exactly. And then you're doing, exactly. Anyways, I don't know. I'm rambling, but I think it's been a couple hours. I think we can probably shut it down. Yeah, we could probably do more, but it is getting dinner time and Daddy's hungry. So
yeah. It is earlier than we normally go. Because the other thing is, like, I don't know, I'll figure that out. So anyway, you want to give us the outro? I will click on.
Oh, okay. You're gonna do the buttons. So the good line, the greater good, 9.5. I think it was. We figured out 9.5. If you liked what you heard, or you had any questions, please leave a comment.
If you actually stuck around, or you're here.
If you actually, we are still working. We are clearly trying to garnish lots of views by our title and everything. We are working through some things. We are trying to become comfortable in our discussions and have a good time whilst doing it, to makes it worth it for everyone. So what was that? You're about to say something? You good? Anyways, like or subscribe, please. Ask questions. We got.
Oh yeah, we're doing Walter's it Sunday. We're
going Sunday. Walter has all the answers, and you guys have a great weekend. We're out. Bye.